Hey, this is Five of Clubs, and welcome one and all to another episode of Simpleton Solos, a series in which a simpleton plays one of his favorite board games. After playing as Granny Ruth in our After the Virus episode, my fix for geriatric gaming was left unsuited. I like a lot of elderly characters throughout games and fiction, as their seemingly frail forms often belie a staggering amount of power. In fact, even in one of the stories I'm working on, I have the remaining retirees of a superhero team that have come out of their retirement and reunited under a new team name, the Old Guard. Suffice it to say, I like Gramps and Gramps who can go toe-to-toe with arrogant whippersnappers. Thankfully, my odd archetypal tastes are met by one of the characters here in today's game, Townsfolk Tussle. Townsfolk Tussle is a 1 to 5 player cooperative battle game that tasks animated townsfolk heroes with defending their toontown of Eureka Springs from cartoon villains called ruffians. The game's art style bears obvious resemblance to early 1930s animations, similar to the famous and fantastic boss-battling video game Cuphead. Some call this game a cross between Cuphead and Kingdom Death Monster, and I think that's a decent description of the experience. However, unlike both of those games, Townsfolk Tussle hosts an entire small-form campaign that can be completed in under 3 hours. As a brief note, I am not planning to do a full rules overview here at the front, as that simply delays the start of gameplay, when the gameplay itself is a great teacher for this game. Instead, I'll do an overview for each relevant segment as it comes up during the game. That being said, I'll note a few things regarding setup and overview before we dive in. At the start of the game, each player will select one Townsfolk Hero character board for their chosen game character. Each townsfolk board hosts a series of starting stat measurements that outline the townsfolk's weaknesses and strengths, as well as a set of unique character abilities outlined on the player board. We'll dive into the nitty-gritty of what these all mean a bit later, but know ahead of time that these stat values will fluctuate throughout the game due to your gear and other in-game effects. Speaking of gear, the player board will also outline your character's starting items. Take the listed gear items from the starting gear deck and place them in the appropriate slots on your character board. As you can see here, each townsfolk board has 6 outlined slots on the edges of the board, 2 hand slots, 1 head slot, 1 chest slot, 1 feet slot, and 1 accessory slot. Each of these slots may accommodate 1 gear card intended for that slot. For instance, Granny Melba's starting cane gear card would go into 1 hand slot, and her 6-shooter gun, the Rudy Tudor, would go into her other, as both items are one-handed weapons. Whilst gear cards are equipped to these slots, they are considered in play, and the wearer may use the listed card effects on them. Gear cards are acquired through various means, but most often through purchase from the peddler's shop. Each time you visit the town, you'll be able to acquire new gear cards from the peddler with any money you've acquired. Furthermore, your old gear cards may be sold to the peddler if something bigger and better comes by. Every townsfolk starts the game with 10 coins, but additional currency can be acquired through the game via town events, completing feats of medal goals, or defeating ruffians. Don't worry, we'll get to all that shortly. Next, you'll shuffle the ruffian boss tokens and select 4 of them at random, arranging them face down in the outlined order on the ruffian section of the board. These tokens will define which ruffians you encounter throughout the game, and in which order. The later in the game that you encounter a ruffian, the tougher they will be to defeat, but your rising stats and gear will ideally offset that so that townsfolk and ruffians stay roughly on par with each other. When everything is all set, shuffle the Peddler's Gear deck, the Town Events deck, and the Feats of Metal deck, and get ready to gear up for the first town phase. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to begin our playthrough of Townsfolk Tussle, and I am excited. Let's do a quick introduction to the characters we'll be playing today, and then we'll get right into things. First up is Norman Fishboy, the enticing fisherman. According to his backside, he says, "Sometimes I don't feel so lucky." He's depressed all around or willing to reluctantly do whatever he needs done. And indeed, that appears to be the case. His moxie, or his action points, are limited to 2 points only. My goodness, he has movement of 4, health of 4. But look at this accuracy, though. He has a 2 in his starting accuracy, meaning he adds 2 to his accuracy rolls. Very good. Additionally, he has the lengthy limbs trait. Thanks to his long arms, as depicted here, he gains +2 range with all melee weapons. And he starts out with a reliable rod, which is a melee 2-handed spear, which itself actually has range 2. So +2 range to that means this is a range 4 weapon, essentially. It costs 2 moxie to actually activate it, indeed, and that would take up all of the moxie that we have at the start of things. He hits on a 6+, but really it's a 4+ because of the 2 accuracy here we have right here. And that means that it would deal 1 damage if he is successful in hitting. He also has a fishy cap headgear, as depicted lovingly in his art here. And for 2 moxie points, he can sling a fish at the ruffian within 4 squares for 2 damage, but you must be adjacent to a town pond, murky moat, or wishing well terrain. And we'll get into what that is coming up. Next, we have Granny Melba. Indeed, and she is the flirty old gunslinger. She has some very hairy legs. Doesn't seem to... oh, and a tattoo right over here. Doesn't seem to give too much appearance care, as she has what appears to be a thong sticking off of her hair over here. She is far-sighted. She gains +X accuracy when attacking, where X equals the square distance between her and her target. So the further away she is from her target, the more accurate she is, as long as her weapon cooperates. Basically, you can't be like, you know, at range 20 and get +20 accuracy, because no weapon in the game, to my knowledge, allows you to attack at range 20. So anyway, though, very cool. But unfortunately, her actual stat for accuracy up here is -2, generally, because if she uses melee weapons like her Granny's cane, then she actually suffers -2 to the accuracy. So this 5+ required is actually a 7+ when attacking with Granny's cane, which means 7, 8, 9, and 10 hits. You have a 4 in 10 chance. Not awful, but certainly not the best. I will say, though, she has 4 movement. I thought that the Granny's cane would do something about her movement. You know, I thought it would interact with movement in some way, just because of what kind of an implement it is, but it does not actually, which is interesting. She also has the lover's discount. Granny and the peddler sure seem well acquainted. And indeed, she has a heart and the P letter there, so I'll let you... And she actually has a picture of the peddler right there, so I'll let you draw inferences from that as you will. You receive a 2-coin discount when purchasing peddler gear worth 7 or more coins. Very cool. She starts with her Granny's cane. We already talked about it's a melee weapon, which will mean she is suffering this unfortunate accuracy penalty. But she also has the Rudy Tudor as depicted in her character art here. And it looks to be a revolver. For 1 moxie point, she hits on 6+ accuracy, which is really 8+. Except, remember, you do add accuracy for the distance. So this has a range of 5, so if you're attacking from 5 range over there, you hit on, I believe, a 3+, which is pretty easy to do. And it does 2 damage per shot. However, when used, the Rudy Tudor cannot attack on the following turn. It's like she has to reload it in between turns, basically. All right, moving along to Quintus Bench, the Troublemaker. As you can see, he is wearing some sort of Boy Scout-esque uniform, stepping in gum, and he appears to have smuggled some menthols there, it appears. And indeed, he has a rather... This guy doesn't look too thrilled with them, so I guess with this having fallen here, it is implied that he stole this thing. Indeed, he is a thief. He has a petty theft skill. You may take an item worth 5 coins or less from the peddler's shop before each shopping session. And the trickster trait for 2 moxie points. Swap positions on the landscape with any other townsfolk. So essentially, you know, if he's in this square and someone else is over there, they can essentially teleport to one another's spaces. Very cool. He has a rubber bat as depicted in his picture there. For 1 moxie, it hits on a 5+. He has a 0 accuracy modifier, so it's just whatever the roll is whatever he gets. And it deals 1 damage if he hits. And he has a consumable accessory called Stolen Candy. You can consume it to discard this card, Stolen Candy. You may place yourself in any open square on the landscape. So essentially, he can do a one-time teleport. And we have Yancey Plover, the Reckless Handyman. And indeed, he appears to have a prosthetic arm and leg there, so to speak. And he has what appears to be an anvil head and a hammer. He looks to be something of a smithy. And indeed, his apron would suggest that. He's a smithy's apron right here. Once per fight, prevent all damage dealt to you from an action. Very cool. And Old Smacky, his trusty hammer, one-handed mace weapon. 2 moxie points on 5+, which is a 0 modifier here. So he has to roll 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. And then he will deal 1 damage on a critical hit with this weapon. Deal an additional damage. And of course, their miniatures are there. All right, so let us dive into the town phase, because we do start with the town phase. We have already shuffled our ruffian tokens here. They are placed along the track. We'll go from top to bottom as we progress through the town. We also have shuffled our feats of metal, our town events. Let's give one more shuffle, and the item deck as well. Very good. And we have our player tokens up here indeed. So there is actually a very handy reference here for the town phase. So you draw back up to 3 feats. So everybody gets 3 feats of metal. So we'll do 1, 2, 3. I'll zoom out to actually deal these out. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's a town event. Sorry. All right. Although I am itching to get in there too. 2 and 3 and 4. Indeed. So we will go ahead and review what our optional battle goals are here. Oh, you know what? Let's turn off hands, because otherwise it's going to be sucking these cards up. We don't want that happening. All right. Tough as nails. End a fight as the sole survivor. Unless our friends are cooperative with us and just willing to die, I don't think we're going to really have this happen for us. So that one I'm going to consider basically a loss. Adapter. Change your equipped gear at least 2 times during a fight. In order to do that, we're really going to need to have other gear available. Thankfully, we get to shop before the first fight. So we might be able to achieve this, and you either get +3 coins or +1 accuracy for the duration of this fight. Interesting. Lucky Aura. If any townsfolk rolls a 5+ on a town event or a ruffian action, achieve this feat. So we're sort of hoping that someone else passes and that we actually get the coins or the benefit for it. Very interesting. All right, Granny Melba, what tasks have you been set to do? All right, looks like we have Roadrunner. Touch 2 opposing landscape edges. Okay, so essentially that means she's going to have to like touch 1 here and then run all the way across there, or the longer way, starting here, run all the way across and there. It does not mean like, you know, getting in the corner, because those are not opposing edges, of course. And if you do that, you get +4 coins or +2 movements for the duration of the fight. Okay. Land Surveyor. At the end of your turn in any corner of the landscape. Okay, so these actually kind of combo together. If she were to tuck herself into the corner and then book it that way, I guess she could try to make these things happen. I don't imagine she'll be very useful in the fight, but she does happen to have the most range of everyone else, so maybe she might surprise us. And we have the Trained Sprinter. Move 6+ squares in a straight line in a single turn. Currently, that's going to be quite tough to do, given that we only have 4 movement. But we could, perhaps, complete the Land Surveyor thing, use it to get the +2 movement, and then do this straight sprinter, because that +2 movement will allow us to move 6 spaces instead of 4. Interesting. Alrighty, Quintus, my friend. Oh no, let's try not to break the mod. Here we go. Cherished. Yeah, something tells me that Quintus is not generally referred to as cherished. If you are healed by another townsfolk, achieve this feat. So someone else would have to heal him. Currently, none of us have healing items, so that's going to be pretty tough to achieve. I don't think we're going to get that. Engineer. Interact with 2 different terrain pieces. That might be possible. When the battle gets set up, you're going to see we have generally 7 different terrain features, or different terrain pieces to mess with on the board. So we might be able to make that happen. Dainty Salesman. Sell a piece of gear. I might want to do that, like maybe with the rubber bat. If I see another weapon that's better for him, I might do that, and then it'll end up giving me 1 more coin and a point. So very good. All right, Yancey Plover. We have the Philanthropist goal here. Pay 5 coins at any time to achieve this feat. I see. Now, interestingly, I don't know. I guess that means like pay it for nothing. You know, not like to buy an item. I think that just means like discard 5 coins to be a philanthropist, and then you can get 1 point and 1 coin or +1 movement for the fight. Dodge the bullet. If you are involved in a tie for targeting and you are not the chosen target, achieve this feat. Interesting. So basically, when the enemy has to make a call between you or this character and someone else, and the enemy decides on the other person, then they would achieve this cheat.
You are not
this feat, not cheat. We have caught in the back, take damage from the ruffian when the target is farthest townsfolk. So we actually kind of almost want to potentially trigger this on purpose. It would actually be pretty funny. Well, I guess you can't do both of these at the same time, but you know. All right, so anyway, so when they target the furthest townsfolk, if Yancey Plover, our friend, is targeted for that, then he would be able to achieve the 2 coins or +1 moxie for the fight. And, oh my goodness, of course, I did not talk about Yancey Plover's skills. He has Frantic Fighter, 2 moxie. If the next card in the action deck targets a single townsfolk, it targets you instead. If it does not target a single townsfolk, you gain +1 movement for the fight. So I guess the idea is he's almost like a tank. He kind of is like, hey, you know, come fight me, or whatever, and tries to distract the villain, so to speak. However, he only has 4 health, so we'll have to maybe make use of the smithy's apron. All right, blacksmith. While in town, other townsfolk may pay you 5 coins and discard a non-starting piece of gear. If they do, they receive the first weapon in the peddler deck. Interesting. Okay, so we only have starting gear for right now, but later in the game, that might be an interesting way to get rid of certain things to just go for a weapon. Except that you don't know what weapon you're going to get. He just bangs on it with old Smacky, I presume, and fashions it into something else. All right, so now we have our goals out. You know what? Let me flip over the ones I don't think I'm going to do. Like that one. I guess I'll keep those 2. I guess I'll leave it there in case someone can heal, but probably not going to happen. That one I don't think is going to happen. These 2 I think are easier to combo together. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that, and that's what I'll do. Again, these feats of metal are not mandatory. You don't have to do them, but they're just additional things that could give you extra bonuses. All right, next up on the step, resolve town events. So everyone is going to get a town event card, and I happened to place the tokens up here in the way that it would be. Actually, I guess I flipped them. All right, so that we're playing this right. There we go. Since Norman Fishboy has been starting everything, technically you go up this scale in the buy-in order when resolving stuff in the town event phase. Then when you're in the fighting phase, you do the beating order, which is the inverse of that. Okay, so there we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And one at a time, you reveal and resolve. Let's see what's happening in town. Secret Rusty Pistol. Okay, so in a multiplayer game, you would not... I guess it's unfortunate that I got this goal as a solo. You know, I'll discard it, even though I like it. I'm going to discard it for the sake of the fact that it's not fair if my other characters know that about his secret event. If there's a secret in here, I guess I'll show you just so that you know. Town event. You find a corroded old pistol in the mud. Looks like it might be good for one more shot. Keep this card face down in front of you. You may reveal it at any time. When you do, roll on a 3+, deal 1 damage to the ruffian, and discard this. So basically, it's like a free, you know, a free little attack against the ruffian, which is pretty cool. All right, what's he really doing? Keeping the pep in your step, the team decides to have a little race around the fresh pile of corpses to keep their energy up. Yes, indeed. Surely, from some of the art and stuff by now, you might have noticed, you know, the blood stains over here. And the intro. Hold on, let me show this guy. Yes, so actually this is the intro to the game. Yep, that's the sheriff who has been murdered quite hard there. His little knee bone sticking out, blood everywhere, decapitated, and missing a shoe, interestingly. I actually had not noticed that particular feature about it before. But, and you know, that knife there has an eye sigil on it. I didn't notice that either. I wonder if the game's trying to tell me something there. Sorry. Anyway, so yes, you might have noticed the game is sort of cartoon-based, but also has a bit of macabre themes to it, so to speak. All right, so yes, we're going to have a race. Might as well put down some coin to make it interesting. Each townsfolk puts down 2 coins, then rolls, and then adds their max movement. So, for instance, Norman would roll the die and then add 4, which is his max movement when he does it, and then so on down the line. The highest roller wins the race and earns the coins. The lowest roller, however, suffers a terrible cramp. In the next fight, they have -1 movement. Oh, no. Okay, so let's get some dice out here. You know what I'll do? I'll just line them up and know that they go from left to right here. How about that? There we go, and we'll give these a roll. Oh my! I've never seen the die go crazy colored like that. I guess that's an effect for if you get a critical. So that's what that item, or that little icon means. If you hover over it, you can see that's a 10. These are 10-sided dice, so the maximum value is 10. So unfortunately, it looks like we have a 4 for Norman, plus 4 is 8. We have a 3 for Granny Melba, plus 4 is 7. And then we have 5 plus 3 is 8. And we have 10 plus, I believe, 5, so 15. So obviously, Quintus won out on that. So unfortunately, that means he's going to get 2 coins from his fellow racers here. Given how mischievous Quintus is, I'm starting to wonder if he may have pulled some shenanigans here to ensure his victory. But I guess I will not comment on that. And unfortunately, the person who rolled the lowest value with their movement is the 3 here, which is Granny Melba. So Granny Melba is going to be acting in the next fight as though she only has 3 movement, which means she may only move 3 spaces per turn. Yikes. That's going to make this goal here of moving 6+ squares in a straight line nearly, I think, maybe even possible, depending on what happens throughout the rest of this town event phase. Okay, so we got the pep in our step, and we are moving on to Granny Melba. What's up with you? Another secret. Okay, let's not do that. Here we go. Let's try exclusive gear. Ooh, okay. Yeah. You're certain the peddler is keeping her best gear hidden. Maybe because Granny Melba happens to know something about the peddler and where the peddler might, in fact, be hiding those things. After some consistent pestering, you convince her to show you some items from her premier purchaser collection. During the town phase, you may reset the peddler shop 1 time for free. Still must be reset before any shopping is done. So, okay, yeah, so I'll explain what that means. Essentially, when it's time to shop, random cards from this deck are going to come out here, and if she doesn't like them, she could just say, let's actually take a look at what's the good stuff. And remember also, she has the lover's discount, so she will be able to get a 2-coin discount from items in the exclusive gear. So, very cool. Oh boy, Lone Shark. Lurking in a thin side streak, you find Saul the Loan Shark. Say, pal, he says, how about a small loan? Looks like you could really use the money. Uh-huh. Refuse the loan. You know better than to deal with people like Saul. Take the loan, receive 8 coins. Keep this card in front of you for the remainder of the game. Whenever you return to town, roll. On a 1 to 4, Saul is back to collect some debt. Lose all coins and a piece of gear of your choice and discard this card. Or on a 5+, Saul is nowhere to be found. You've escaped his clutches this time around. So it's sort of a gamble where you're like, okay, do you think you're going to roll 1, 2, 3, or 4, or are you going to roll anything else? Because if you roll anything else, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6 sides on a 10-sided dice, then you're okay. But I'm rolling in dough right now. So, no, Lone Shark, get out of here. We're not going to do that. That's insane. All right, keep the receipts. You get the feeling the peddler has been ripping you off. Yes, I mean, it's true. We haven't actually bought anything from her yet. But I feel as though that itself is the crime, right? You know, like, she should be giving us stuff. We're trying to save Eureka Springs, for crying out loud. She should be a little less stingy with her prices and a little more willing to let us put stuff on layaway and buy things. Better keep the receipt just in case. Keep this card in front of you. The next time you sell an item to the peddler, you receive its full value. Interesting. Well, there you go. That is, well, that's something, isn't it? Okay, so now we can stick it to her if we want to. All right. Now it's time to shop. So I'm going to hit the setup gear button because there's been some excellent programming done here. All right, let's take a look at what we could buy. Alrighty, friends, originally I actually filmed the entirety of my market phase where I looked at each of the items, weighed their pros and cons, and then built the gear tables here as what I felt was best. But when I went back and looked at it in editing, that was like 15 minutes of footage. And I'll admit it was not the most entertaining. While indeed it was strategically depthful, I felt like it was a bit much. So essentially what I thought might be better is if I just give you a quick Cliff Notes version of what I bought, what I think it's going to do, just character by character, and then we'll go from there. So for Norman Fishboy, I bought the Hive on a Stick weapon. It's a melee one-handed mace. For 2 Moxie and the same set of accuracy, it has the chance to deal 1 additional damage compared to my reliable rod. And it's the only issue potentially is that if you whiff with this weapon, which is a natural roll of 1, like that, then you would take 2 damage. So I know that he mentioned he doesn't feel lucky all the time, but we are going to hope that we can turn his luck around through our campaign. So I figured it does the potential to, it's basically very, very similar to what I already have, except now, given that it's a one-handed mace, I'll be able to hold something in my left hand if I want, and it'll deal 2 damage instead of 1, and I just hope that I won't roll any 1s. Moving right along, we have Granny Melba. There was not a whole lot that she could buy from the market, unfortunately, but because our movement did get offset during the town phase, I thought it made sense to buy her some footwear that increased her movement. Additionally, on a critical hit, which is a natural roll of 10 with that little BAM symbol, then Granny Melba would be able to move 3 squares, which I thought comboed really well with the movement goals that she had down here. It may, in fact, help her get those. Okay, moving right along, we have Quintus Bench, who, of course, was able to steal an item of 5 or less first with the petty theft skill. He stole some sandals because it was about the only thing in his price range that was at all interesting. It gives him +1 movement, bringing him to 6. Not that he was lacking in movement, but he can always sell them later, which is kind of funny to steal something from the peddler and then sell it back to her. And additionally, he bought the Sharpened Feather, which is a melee one-handed dagger, if you can believe it. It costs 0 Moxie to use, hits on a 2+ with accuracy. So basically, if you roll anything other than a 1, it's going to hit, and it does 1 damage. Now, looking at Moxie, you spend Moxie to do attacks like this one up here, costs 1 Moxie. We saw this over here costs 2, and that costs 1. Now, you might be looking at 0 Moxie and say, well, wait a minute, can't you just use that infinitely on your turn? No, you can only use each weapon once per turn. So I could use the Sharpened Feather once in one turn, and then I can use the Rubber Bat in another turn, or as a second part of my turn. So I will plan to utilize those and be doing some double attacks. One with the Tickling Sharpened Feather and one with the Rubber Bat Swing. So hopefully that will pay off for us. And we have Yancey Plover. He ended up buying some basic boots that's going to increase his Moxie to 4. And we're going to hope that having that additional Moxie of 3 to 4, we are now able to utilize his Hammer and his Frantic Fighter skill in one turn, which again would change the targeting parameters and potentially reward him depending on what they are. So that's what I bought, and of course everyone has a little bit of leftover money for the next round. We'll hope to get some more excellent items, but let us go ahead and talk about what battling is like. Now that we're all geared up, it's time for the ruffian to come cause some mischief. But quickly, let's review the general battle flow before he shows up. I'll have already taken care of the setup, but basically reveal the next ruffian token from the board, grab that ruffian's boss board and its associated ruffian deck, and set up the encounter according to the diagram on the boss board. The showdown is divided into a 2-turn structure that repeats until the battle's conclusion, the ruffian turn and the townsfolk turns. Each ruffian turn is comprised of one simple step: reveal the top card of the ruffian deck and do what it says. Sometimes there's some nuance in how to resolve these steps, but we'll talk about those nuances should they occur during our playthrough. After resolving the ruffian's card, that card is discarded and play shifts to the townsfolk turns. During the townsfolk turns, each townsfolk in player order will move around the board and use their Moxie action points to perform various actions. Your townsfolk's movement stat dictates how many spaces you can move in a turn. Townsfolk and ruffians cannot move diagonally, but they can only move in the D-pad directions, up, down, left, and right. Note as well that certain objects on the board will hinder or block movement through them, like other figures and some obstacle terrain pieces. After movement is performed, townsfolk may spend their Moxie action points to perform actions. These characters' Moxie stat lists how many Moxie points you will be allotted each turn. The usual expenditure of Moxie points is to attempt an attack against the ruffian, but Moxie points may also be spent on unique player skills, alternative actions granted by gear cards, and special terrain-specific actions. Townsfolk will resolve attacks using one of the equipped weapon cards, and attacks work as follows. First, spend the listed amount of Moxie on the weapon card. Then, roll the black attack die and add, or subtract, the amount listed for your character's accuracy stat. If the final number calculated this way equals or exceeds the weapon card's listed accuracy number, then apply the damage value listed in the weapon card to the ruffian. Some weapons also list a range value, which indicates how many spaces away from the ruffian that weapon can attack from. But most cards in the game are considered melee weapons and may only target enemies in adjacent spaces. As for the rest of the particulars, I'll walk through them as we play. Now let's get tussling. In any case, it is now time to fight our first boss, and who's it going to be? King and Queen. Oh boy, these are actually the two I haven't fought before. Alrighty folks, we are back. I apologize for the cut in footage there. For whatever reason, the setup King and Queen button was not populating the board as it was supposed to, so I had to assemble everything manually. But we are ready to go, and I'll just quickly explain. Basically, this will show you how to set up the board for the encounter, and the board setup will be the same. These T spots are where you can set your various townsfolk, and the R spot, of course, is where you set the ruffian. And here, they are King and Queen. They are conjoined twins of royalty, and indeed, they have very sinister faces there. They're not nice characters, but the ruffians are generally not very kind, indeed. So you can see there's their colored picture there, and he's got his sword, she's got her bell, and there's their court jester who appears to have met an unfortunate fate. They're very greedy, these folks here. They tend to even their own children found their life in Biformia unbearable. I mean, that explains it all. So they're not very kind individuals. All right. And each of these different little spots you can see replicated on the board, and they represent the terrain that we are able to interact with. So basically, I'll just shoot through it real quick. We have a bear trap right here in the center of the board that we can open up. You have to spend 2 Moxie to set the trap, and you have to pass a roll check. If you set it and the ruffian moves through the open bear trap, the trap will clamp onto them and deal them damage. Pretty neat. We have a mushroom grove right over here by the dense woods. If you spend a Moxie there, you can eat a mushroom and roll, and it could do something really good, or it could do something mildly good, or it could really be bad and put you to sleep. Then we have the dense woods, which is a feature. It costs 2 movement to enter any dense woods square. It does not affect ruffians or movement via gear or abilities. So essentially, you could go into these woods, but it'll cost you additional movement there and slow your progress. All right, we have a deserted picnic right up here in the corner. If you go there and spend 1 Moxie point, you can interact and roll. On a 1 to 6, you find nothing. On a 7+, you find some goodies left behind. Receive the first card from the peddler deck worth 9 coins or less. You may equip it immediately. Remove deserted picnic from the board. And actually, that's why I set. You get to pick which townsfolk goes to which spot. That's actually why I put Quintus over here, because he is a speed machine. And if I'm not mistaken, Quintus also is an engineer who wants to interact with terrain pieces, and indeed he is. So he might want to go take a look at that picnic, perhaps. And it looks like you can do this more than once, because this actually doesn't get removed from the board unless you succeed in the check, so that's pretty cool. We have a wishing well here, which is an obstacle. Obstacles, as opposed to these other green ones that are features, obstacles cannot be moved on top of or through. So essentially it blocks any sort of movement, whereas I could walk through the trees or the mushroom thing or the picnic or anything like that. So, okay, we have a wishing well. If you pay 2 coins, you can make a wish and roll, and various things will happen depending on what you roll. We have a doctor's hut over here, which is an obstacle. When at the door, spend 2 Moxie to request the doctor. On a 1 to 7, there's nothing they could do. On an 8+, he actually can resuscitate a townsfolk, returning a knocked out townsfolk to the board adjacent to you with 1 health point. Very cool. So it's a way to bring people back into the game. And we have a tool shed right next door to the doctor's hut. Perhaps his medical tools are stored here. Obstacle. Win at the door. Spend 1 moxie. Search the shed and roll. And depending on what you roll, you can get various things. Okay, so I think it's time to begin. This has already instructed us. They have 7 movement points, those ruffians, and 17 health we got to tear through. All righty. So let's flip them to this side. We are actually fighting them on the chump setting because they're the first boss. But if we had encountered them as the second boss, third boss, or the final boss, they would get these various tricks. Okay, let's reveal the first card from King and Queen. Gem Slapped. Queen delivers a series of smacks from her ring-covered hand. Target all townsfolk within 3 squares. Let's take a look and make sure who is within 3 squares. So we have 1. When you do targeting as well, it's the same as with movement, so you don't target diagonally. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think actually nobody is in range for that, which is pretty lucky. If there was somebody in range, deal 1 damage to all targets. Move King and Queen towards the farthest townsfolk. And then after effect would happen if they were suffered damage. The targets are flustered by the barrage of blows. All targets have their accessories unequipped. So King and Queen, being that they are greedy, they're going to try and go after your gear and your precious money. So that's one of the things that they are going to try to do. But we actually got pretty lucky on this card because none of the townsfolk were within the targeting range from the start of the game. So essentially, King and Queen aren't going to do anything, which is nice. Okay. All right, we got a little bit of mercy there. Let's go ahead and begin. So here in the beating order, you see the boss goes first, and then it's in reverse order from how things worked in the buying. So we start with Yancey Plover, then Quintus, then Melba, then Fishboy. So we're going right to left, backwards. So anyway, so he gets to go first. He is going to get 4 moxie points to work with this turn. He has a movement of 3, not a whole lot. But he is going to be able to move 3 spaces. That's not actually going to get him adjacent to our friend here just yet. But I guess we'll move 1, 2, 3. We'll move right. Oh, let's try and not get him. Oh, no. Tabletop Simulator. Yes, indeed. All right. There we go. That's a little better. All right, so he's there, and even though it looks like he's adjacent, he actually can't attack yet because you can only attack on the north, south, east, and west spaces from somebody. And we have 4 moxie points. The problem is we don't have a whole lot else we can do with them. I think what we'll do, however, is use the Frantic Fighter action for 2 of our moxie points. If the next card in the action deck targets a single townsfolk, it targets you instead. If it does not target a single townsfolk, gain +1 movement for the fight. So we have that activated. I'm going to go ahead and just put a little marker on there to remind myself that he has that skill activated. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'm going to change the color of this. Let's make it red. And then I'm going to scale it up so that I definitely don't miss it. And I'm just going to put it right on there. So when I go to draw the next card, I go, what's this giant thing? Oh, that's right. It's his thing. So it's a little reminder there. Okay, Quintus Bench. Quintus, my friend, you have 6 movement. Let's go ahead and rock it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We are on the picnic space, and I think it's time to search it. So we spend 1 moxie, and he has 2 moxie in his turn. So we have that going for us. And he gets to roll a die. So here's his die. Roll, roll, roll. 9. That seems good. You found some goodies left behind. Receive the first card from the peddler deck worth 9 coins or less. You may equip it immediately. Wow. Okay, what do we got?
Cheese grommet.
Sharp cheddar. It's an accessory. If we equip it now, it replaces our stolen candy. Consume. Discard sharp cheddar. Restore 1 HP and gain +2 accuracy for the fight. Let's hang on to it for right now. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to clone this to show that I have interacted with 1 piece of terrain to help me remember that I have done that. Very good. Okay, so we got some sharp cheddar. Okay, not amazing, but not terrible, certainly. And we've used our movement. Unfortunately, our other action point cannot be used for anything that comes to mind for just 1 moxie. So, all right. I guess we will move right along to Granny Melba. She is looking fine over there. She's got a movement of 4 now that we have our sandals. Let's go 1 because we have a range 5 weapon, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is at range 5 here. So if we shoot that range, that means we get plus 5 accuracy, minus 2 is really plus 3. So when we roll, we're going to have to hit on a 3+ shooting the Rudy Tutor. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Wow, there it is. The first one of the game, my friends. A 1. That is a miss. And unfortunately, the Rudy Tutor will have to be reloaded before such a time as we can use it again. Goodness. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Moving on to Norman Fishboy. We already know that there are no sources of water. Well, I guess there is a wishing well, but we'd have to get the boss all the way over there to utilize it. So probably not likely we're going to get any benefits from that. But we might be able to get some benefits from our hive on a stick. And I just remembered, this is actually a 2-handed weapon. So we're going to have to disequip it if we want to carry the hive on a stick, which we do. All right, where is he? There he is, the big guy. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. Yes. So he has moved 3. He has 4 movement, I guess, technically. So I guess I probably should move right there so that I have a range of 3. Now, wait a minute. Isn't this a melee weapon, meaning you have to attack an adjacent space? Normally, yes. Oh, but you know what? I think he gets +2 range with all melee weapons. Okay, yes, it's normally a range 1, technically speaking, so it's a range 3 here. Very good. So his long arms are able to take that hive of bees and try and bonk King and Queen on the head. Let's see if he is able to do that for us. Come on, we need some damage. Crit. Oh my goodness, look at that. We got a critical hit, friends. That's the exact opposite of a 1. Now, on a critical hit, we get to look at this. Upon landing a critical hit on the ruffian, roll. And depending on what we roll, something else is going to happen. How neat. A 7. You're invigorated by your hefty hit. Increase your movement, mox, or accuracy by 1 for the remainder of the fight. Oh my goodness. Well, we don't really need more accuracy, I don't think. So we could increase our moxie, maybe. Not sure we need to. Let's increase our movement for right now, in case we need to chase down our friend, the King and Queen. And, of course, let's not forget to apply our damage to the boss. That's 2 points of damage. 1, 2, bringing them from 17 to 15. Okay, but now, unfortunately, it's back to King and Queen's turn. We know that King and Queen are going to be targeting Yancey if it's a single target attack. Let's see what it is. Royal dispute. King and Queen seem to be bickering with each other. A lover's quarrel, perhaps? Target all townsfolk within 2 squares. Okay, so this targets multiple targets, which means, because of our frantic fighter skill, that if it does not target a single townsfolk, a single one, not meaning like it doesn't target anybody, I think. Yes, okay, yeah. If the next card in the action deck targets a single townsfolk, it targets you instead. Otherwise, if it does not, then gain +1 movement for the fight. So guess what? Yancey has got that bonus movement. Very good. All right, all townsfolk within 2 squares. Unfortunately, Yancey is... Oh, you know what, though? Actually, I don't think Yancey gets the movement because... even though it says all townsfolk in 2 squares, it really... The only one that applies is Yancey, so I don't think that that's the case. So what's the other thing that happens? It targets me instead. Otherwise, if it does not target a single townsfolk, you gain +1 movement. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to get the movement. I'm going to play as though I don't. Because even though it targets all townsfolk, it only really technically actually succeeds in targeting that one. All targets take 1 damage from a stray fist. Move King and Queen toward the farthest townsfolk. Okay, so poor Yancey got a stray fist to the face. And then the King and Queen are going to move toward the farthest townsfolk. Okay. So she's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, going after our friend. I guess it was good that we sent him over there after all, perhaps. After effect, your gear has come loose. Unequip two pieces of gear amongst all targets, divided as the targets choose. Unfortunately, there's only one target that can apply to. Yikes. I guess we'll do that. And we'll do that, which will reduce our Moxie down to 3. That's not so bad. That just means we have to re-equip it, which isn't awful. Actually, you know what we'll do? I'm going to keep this because I know something. It costs 2 Moxie to equip. So with my next turn, I may just spend all my Moxie to equip this and this again. All right. So Quintus, unfortunately, is looking down at a giant sword that is looking to come and get our friend there. Not good. All right, but it's our turns again. So Yancey Plover, you just took a bit of a pounding, my friend, but it's okay. And what movement do we want to do? I guess we'll go 1, 2, 3 right there. And we'll go ahead and put this... Oh, wait, no, we won't. We're going to equip our stuff again. Here's one piece. Actually, and then we'll do... Nah. We'll put the hammer back out, just in case. Okay. Very good. So he has concluded his actions. He spent 2 Moxie points per the turn sheet here. You can see change gear. Yep. You pay 2 Moxie and then you're able to put it in there. Okay. And then... Indeed, I suppose it's it's Quintus Bench's turn, who has quite a bit of movement. I think Quintus Bench is going to attack our friend. 1, 2, 3. We're going to move 3 spaces. Look at King and Queen, and we're going to start our attack spree with the Sharpened Feather, which hits on a 2+. Come on, buddy, you can do this. 7. Sure enough, that will work. That's going to deal 1 damage to the boss. There we go. And I also have a rubber bat I can utilize. Let's go ahead and do so. That is a 4. A 4 is unfortunately not going to beat a 5+, meaning that we swung our rubber bat and unfortunately we missed. Wah, wah. Okay, sorry there, little buddy. Now, I suppose we only have 1 Moxie left, so there's nothing else I could do that's incredibly useful. Okay, moving right along, we're going to Granny Melba. Unfortunately, Granny Melba is going to have to not use her gun this turn, and she has 4 movement. I suppose we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll end the turn flipping that so that next time, on the next turn, we know we can shoot our Rudy Tudor. And we have Norman Fishboy, who is feeling pretty good after that critical hit. He has 5 movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we go. Let's turn him to face our friend in the dense forest. And unfortunately, that person is just 1 bit out of range from us. So we are not able to get that. But you know what we could do? We want to try and at least gain 1 of these goals, don't we? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my equipped gear. I'm going to change the hive on the stick for the reliable rod for my 2 Moxie points. And then what I'll do is I'll actually just swap it back later when I also can't attack. And then we'll be good to go. So, very good. We'll have achieved that goal. Okay, okay. Yep, not feeling that yet. End your turn at any corner of the landscape. I guess she could move her way over there if she wanted to give up on fighting these people. But that's no fun. No fun at all. If you are involved in a tie targeting you and you are not the chosen target. We've not achieved that. Take damage to Ruffian when the target is farthest townsfolk. Haven't achieved that yet. Okay. Righto. So, it's King and Queen's turn. Let's see what they're doing. Mantle Mayhem. King and Queen let out a cackle as they throw their cloak over the townsfolk. Target the 2 closest townsfolk. If 1 townsfolk is on the board, discard this and play the next card in the action deck. King and Queen throw their giant cloak over the targets. When it is removed, the townsfolk find themselves attached at the hip. Oh my! Reduce each target's movement by 1 and place them adjacent to one another. Keep this card in front of the townsfolk for the remainder of the fight. Whenever one of these townsfolk move, place the other townsfolk adjacent to them at the end of the turn, and then play the next card in the action deck. Oh my goodness. So, it turns out our friends here... it looks like Oh my goodness. So yes, Quintus Bench and Norman Fishboy have been joined at the hip, it appears. It's good because they happen to be the ones with the highest movement, I guess. But, wow. Okay, and then I'll just put that over on Quintus there as a reminder. And we play the next card as well. Stockpile Swipe. King slices at your pockets while queen grabs for anything that falls out. Target the closest townsfolk. Well, that's going to be our dear friend, the mischievous Quintus Bench. Move toward the target. If king and queen reach them, deal 1 damage. Well, they will not have to move at all because they are already adjacent. So unfortunately, our little friend is going to take 1 damage. After effect. Your spare wares slip from your pockets and into king and queen's hands. Discard 1 piece of stashed gear if possible. No. No. They're going to take this sharp cheddar that I found at this suspicious picnic. Darn you. Curse you. Oh my goodness. That's terrible. Oh man. That is really unfortunate. Okay. I was hoping to, if not use that, then sell it, certainly. Alright, but it's our turns again, and we are angry. We are angry. Certainly so. No one more so than Yancey Plover. Unfortunately, Yancey is not quite close enough to get at our friend here. So he'll move 3 spaces right there, I suppose. And I guess let's activate the Frantic Fighter bit. He doesn't have a whole lot else he can do. All right, moving right along. We have Quintus Bench. Quintus is in prime position for attack. Let's start with the Sharpened Feather, shall we? We rolled a 2. Thankfully, it hits on a 2+. Basically, it hits on anything but a 1. So we have that. Bam. Righto. And we still have 2 Moxie here. And I suppose let's go ahead and smack her with the rubber bat. Oh, bam, we got a crit. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Maybe. See, Norman, you see what I'm talking about, dude? You're not so unlucky. I mean, yeah, we did just get conjoined at the hip. But, I mean, look at this. We got together and we got a crit again. All right, the 4. What's the 4 on the crit do? You crush the ruffian's walkie bits. Lower the ruffian's movement by 1. Very cool. So we were able to hit their feet, and their toes have turned red and swollen, I suppose. Very good. Oh, and of course, let's deal damage. Now, we are at the point on the health track where there is this sort of red bam explosion symbol. What that means is that we now trigger sort of a response from the villain. Essentially, they get a free card play right between here. Normally, you have to wait till their turn to play cards, but whenever they hit these red markers, they get to play a card immediately. So that's going to happen. However, we do have our Frantic Fighter thing in here. So let's see what this card targets. Target the farthest townsfolk. It does target a single target. I'm sorry, Yancey. I'm sorry. The farthest townsfolk is going to be our friend Granny Melba. My goodness. Okay. Move toward the target. If king and queen reach them, deal 1 damage. You know what's funny? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I don't remember what happens when they collide with somebody. Colliding with townfolk. Some actions require a ruffian to move on to the square with the townsfolk in it. If they do, townsfolk push out of the square into an adjacent square of their choice. Okay, so it doesn't actually deal any additional damage. Like it does in Kingdom Death. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, funny, they would actually work if they still had their movement of 7. But thanks to the excellent crit by Quintus the Bench, he was able to reduce it to 6, meaning that they only can move this far, meaning they're not adjacent to do the attack. Very good. So they do not reach them, meaning they don't deal 1 damage, and they do not resolve the after effect, which would have done king and queen loom over the target. The target may pay tribute to the ruffian by discarding a piece of owned gear. If they do, activate king and queen's weakness and remove this card from the game. So every boss has a printed weakness on here. It says benevolent rulers. King and queen are satisfied by your tribute. Whenever an action would cause the townsfolk to unequip a specific piece of gear, they may unequip any other piece of gear instead. So like on stuff where they would make you discard your weapon or drop something, you're able to pick something else, like maybe an accessory that you'd rather drop. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, moving right along. Good job, Quintus. You did it, dude. All right, Granny Melba is here, but she is a little close for comfort, although her Rudy Tutor is ready for firing. So I say, Granny, let's move you 1, 2, 3, 4, because we are going to, actually, because of where the king and queen are, we're going to try and see if we can get into that corner to fulfill the goal. Okay, time to shoot. Here we go. That's an 8. That's certainly going to hit because, remember, we are far-sighted. We have 3 spaces of range here, meaning we hit on a 3, a 5, which 3 minus 2 is 5 plus. We rolled an 8, though, so we're good to go. That's going to be 2 damage right here. Bam, bam. Reducing them to 10. Very good. And that's about all she can do right now. Yep, that's about all she can do. Very good. Okay. Very good. And then, of course, we have our dear friend, Norman Fishboy, who is conjoined with our friend Quintus. So wherever he moves, Quintus will move also. He can move 4 spaces. Yes, he can. Let's see. We'd have to move around our friend Yancey, though, probably. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's good. 2, 3, 4. Now, what I could do... Whoops. I'm going to try and get him... Oh, yes, they don't... Tell you what, we'll turn him this way, because I think if you put him towards the back of the figure... Yep. Okay. Now, he is in range to attack here with the reliable rod, or actually with the hive on a stick. Let's go ahead and... I mean, we do have this done once. We could go ahead and just get the stick back out, or the hive on a stick back out instead of attacking. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to use our 2 Moxie to get our hive on a stick back out instead of the reliable rod. Very good. Okay. And that completes this goal right here. Very good. So we either get 3 gold or +1 accuracy for the fight. I don't think we need accuracy. We already have 2 additional accuracy, so I'm going to get 3 gold, bringing me up to a value of 5. Whoops. There we go. Alrighty. Excellently done, Norman Fishboy. Very good. Alright. It is time for King and Queen to go. So let's see what they are going to do. Royal introduction. King and Queen demand respect. Target all townsfolk within 4 squares. That's everybody. Oh no. All targets must unequip their headgear. Then move King and Queen toward the farthest townsfolk. So the farthest townsfolk is going to be... technically, our friend right here. 1, 2, 3. Yep. So they're going to move right over here. Oh, if I can try and get them in that spot. Oh, okay. So he moved. Oh, stop. Thank you. All right, so it's a twin-on-twin battle here. But unfortunately, we have to unequip our headgear. The only person that has headgear is Norman Fishboy. So he's going to discard... or, I'm sorry, unequip the fishy cap. Yep. Which isn't so bad, because we weren't anywhere near the well to be able to use it anyway. So, joke's on you, King and Queen. Alright, moving along, it's Yancey Plover's turn, and Yancey Plover is actually, strangely, adjacent to our friend here. And he can spend 2 Moxie to try and deliver the smackdown on King and Queen. Let's see if he is successful in doing so. Come on, buddy. That's a 3. That's not going to do it. Okay, I have 2 more Moxie to spend because that only costs 2. I'll go ahead and activate the Frantic Fighter trait, shall we? Very good. All right. Moving along to Quintus. Quintus, my friend. What do you say we go 1, 2, 3, 4... yeah, right there, actually. Huh? What do you say we do that? And then we'll try and... Darn. These are very collisive. That's not a word. These pieces like to collide with one another is what I was trying to say there. Okay, you kind of know where they're at. Alright, and now we are going to start with the Sharpened Feather attack. Tickle attack. There we go. Bam, that's 1 damage. And then we are going in with the Rubber Bat. That's a 7, which is going to hit. That's the movement. All right. Very good. Good job, Quintus, my good friend. All right, moving right along, we have Granny Melba, whose gun is unloaded, so I think it's the perfect time to move into this corner. And we're going to go ahead and end our turn there to achieve this goal. And we could get the +2 movement, or the 3 coins. Let's do the +2 movement. Here we go. Because I want to complete this goal also, if we can. Yep, that's what I'll do. All right, very good. Moving right along, we have the last one, of course, Norman Fishboy, who is actually in range to hit because of the fact that he has his long, lengthy limbs. All right, let's go ahead. Hive on a stick. That's a 7 plus 2 is 9. We needed a 6 plus. Perfect. So that's 2 more damage coming to our friend. Unfortunately, that is going to trigger another one of those BAM symbols. Let's see what happens. Target closest townfolk. This targets a single target, so the frantic fighter trait will actually target our friend Yancey Plover. Here we go. Oh, or, you know, King and Queen could decide just to topple over. It's true. All right, Yancey. I hope you're ready, buddy. Okay, what do we got? Move toward the target. He's already there. If King and Queen reach them, deal a damage. Okay. I could use the Smithy's Apron to prevent all damage dealt to you from an action, but 1 damage is not that bad. So let's go ahead and take that. After effect. If there are 3+ townfolk on the board, King's hit leaves your wrists battered and bruised. The target must unequip a weapon of their choice. If they did not have any weapons equipped, they take 1 additional damage. Okay, thankfully, old Smacky can be unequipped. Okay, ouch. His wrists are ringing with pain. Yowza. Okay, King and Queen. I think we've got this, though. I think we're going to be okay. Yancey, how about you deliver some surrogate vengeance, shall we? Let's spend 2 Moxie points of our 4 to equip Old Smacky, and then let us utilize its namesake for vengeance. No, that's not going to do it, buddy.
You missed! How could you miss? It was 3 feet in front of you!
Not going to do it. Quintus, how about we tickle our friends with a sharpened feather? That is a 6, meaning we are going to deal 1 damage there. Looks like we're about to trigger another card, though. And the baseball bat. That is a 7 on a 5+. That's going to hit it, meaning we're going to trigger this card. Supreme Serenade. Queen whispers sweet nothings into King's ear. He's all fired up. Target the closest townsfolk. Well, so it's actually a tie between our friends here. If there is a tie for a single target action, in this case there is, the townsfolk roll to determine the target, and the lowest roll is targeted. Okay. So, I don't know. I guess I'll say, I guess technically you both roll and whoever does it, but I'll just say, if it's odd, it's coming to Quintus. If it's even, it's going to Yancey. Alright, that is 4, which is even, which means it's going to our friend Yancey. Move toward the target, yes. Okay, if there are 3+ townsfolk on the board, trigger the after effect. King is invigorated and begins swinging wildly. Draw the next card from the action deck. All targets in that action immediately take 1 damage. Then the action is played. Oh my goodness, this might not be good. Okay, next card from the action deck. All targets from this action immediately take 1 damage. Target townsfolk with the most owned gear. Well, that's certainly going to be our friend Quintus. Yikes. Look at that. He's at 1 health. Oh, no. Oh, wait. Sorry. No, he's at 2 health. What was I thinking? Move toward them. If King and Queen reach them, deal 1 damage. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Ha ha ha. I'm not insane. Okay. Then, after effect, if there are 3+ townsfolk on the board, King puts an extra oomph into his poke. The violent jab flings the gear right off your body. The target unequips half their gear rounded down. My goodness. I suppose we'll unequip the sandals and the stolen gear. Stolen candy. Because our weapons are working for us right now. Ow! Youch! The final stand from King and Queen is turning out to be a bit scary. Okay, so that was the extent of his turn. He's done everything he can do with his Moxie. It's time to move on to Granny Melba. Let's reload, Granny. We are ready to move up a few spaces. Let's see. Let's count the space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have range 5 right here. Optimal targeting range. And target acquired. Boom. There we go. With that 5, that's going to hit. Basically, everything above a 3 is going to hit. So, she shot. That's going to do 2 damage there, bringing our ruffian to 2 health. And putting that gun face down. So, she's not able to do that later. I didn't get this yet. Darn. Yeah, that would put me just a little too close. You know, I'll let it go. It's okay.
Hey, that snail was about to charge.
It's okay. Alrighty. And then Norman Fishboy, where he is, I'm going to... You know what I'll do? Might do something a bit tricky here with Norman the Fishboy. He's going to move 1, 2, 3. He's going to bring Quintus with him because they are conjoined at the moment. And he's going to attack over there because we really want Quintus, unfortunately, kind of away from our friend here because he's bleeding pretty bad. All right, and let us use our Moxie to attack. Come on! Another crit. For someone who says he doesn't feel so lucky, I think that's your second crit today, dude. Let's roll and see what we get. That's a 5. Crush the ruffian's walkie bits, lower the movement by 1. But you know what? I'm not even going to bother because that's going to be 2 damage from the hive on the stick. They have 2 health left. 1. Boom. Bam. There we go. So we have done it. We have taken down King and Queen in our first battle of Townsfolk Tussle. Now, a few things happen at the end of the encounter. For one thing, the biggest thing in my opinion, he didn't end up getting to interact with a second piece of terrain. Once he got tied down to Norman, he became sort of a impromptu attacker as well. I mean, he was equipped to attack, but we didn't get to make that happen. If you are involved in a tie for target, you are not the chosen target. Achieve this feat. Unfortunately, the one tie I think that he was applicable for, he was the chosen target. Take damage from the ruffian when the target is farthest townsfolk. So no, they didn't get either of those. I didn't get that. Didn't get that. If I'm healed, nope, didn't get that. She was unfortunately unable to get the trained sprinter thing, and this person was also unable to acquire that. So basically, these two currently are tied right now for having completed one of their goals, and they're both worth 1 point apiece. Search the mutilated corpse for goodies to help you on your journey. Each ruffian has their own 3 pieces of ruffian gear. Oh, we all get 6 coins, courtesy of the ruffian's wallet. Very good. And we may discard any unaccomplished feats we don't want for the next round. Very good. So they have 3 pieces of ruffian gear, which are listed at the bottom of the card. Very good. And the person who achieved the most feats, not the most feat points this round, receives one of these at random. In case of a tie, roll between the two. Okay, I should have figured. Okay, so these two are currently fighting over it. And we have 2 dice here. Let's see who is going to get the gear. We have a 4 and a 5. So looks like Granny's going to get one of the gears here. So we have that, that, and that. Those are their gears. Shuffle. We have the Royal Mantle. Let's take a look at it. +1 maximum HP. It gives you an action here. Spend 1 Moxie point. Select an adjacent townsfolk. Place them adjacent to you at the end of your turn. So you can sort of put your mantle around them and then move them with you, sort of, to give them free movement during your turn. That's pretty cool. And we'll reset her stat there. I guess we reset it to 5 because she should be +1. Okay, so she has that King and Queen mantle. Very cool. All right. I mean, I was hoping for... I guess I wasn't hoping for the sword because, I mean, she doesn't do so well with melee weapons. But very good. And, of course, like I said, everyone is going to get 6 coins. So what I'll do is I'll copy, and then we'll paste that here. We'll delete that coin. We'll paste this here. There we are. And then we'll paste this here. And then what you do after that is you clean up the battle here, which hopefully, let's see if this works. Clear boss stuff. Of course not. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and clean this up manually, and then I will clip back to my concluding thoughts for the end of episode 1. Alrighty, everyone, thank y'all so much for watching my first episode of Townsfolk Tussle. During the next episode, of course, we'll begin with yet another town phase. We're able to do some town events, get some new feats of metal, and shop and get some new items, hopefully. Yes, I had a great time so far with it. That was my first time facing King and Queen in a full battle like that, so that was something. I think we made out pretty well. Of course, no one died. I didn't feel incredibly threatened by them, but I've heard that they could be quite the force of reckoning if on the harder difficulties when they do their additional steps if you meet them later on in the campaign trail. Excuse me. And I guess I'll have to play it again later, maybe in another campaign where they're later on, to see what the difference is, because I feel like we kind of took them down pretty handily. Very good. So we will look forward to being back with some more stuff coming up on the next episode. I'm not sure that I'll do part 2 immediately, or if I'm going to do another video in between, but we will be back, certainly. We'll finish this campaign out, but it's definitely going to have to be multiple parts, so this video would be like, 2.5 to 3 hours long. Very good. Well, hey, thank y'all so much, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Simpleton Solos. Take care.